Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Paul. Good to be here.
You published a report last week regarding America's energy choices. What did you find out?
Well, we found out a lot of things. First is that even though we've been in a recession and period of slow growth, we are going to see a return to energy growth over the next 30 years, up to 25%.
That's a huge amount. What are the implications of that growth?
Well, it is a huge amount, and we should expect continued population growth and continued economic growth to cause a growth in energy demand, and that will manifest itself in many ways. We'll have some serious choices about how we're going to meet that demand.
You proposed judging those choices in 3 ways. What were they?
I have. We have to take a look at these choices in a way to determine, are they secure, economically stable, and environmentally sustainable.
What do those mean?
It's a good question because we do have to define these choices. When something is secure, the usual term is to talk about something that is not imported. But what we should instead think of is something that doesn't expose our foreign policy and our military to harm abroad. When we talk about economically stable, we have to look more at something that is doesn't fluctuate up and down because it's easier for businesses and consumers to decide what to do based on price if they have a stable long-term price. And finally, environmental sustainability is extraordinarily important over the long term, both in terms of climate change and the really detrimental effects of mining or other sorts of things.
And what were the energy choices you put forward in this paper?
Well, it's a range of choices that we put forward about 10 or 11 choices, and we could probably expand that to even 15, ranging from across 3 broad types, though. The first is fossil fuels, the second is nuclear, and the third is renewable power.
What were the fossil fuels?
So fossil fuels are your typical coal, oil, and natural gas. That makes up about 85% of our total energy use in the United States.
And what did you find about those 3 sources?
Well, a couple of things are of note here. Natural gas is growing significantly as a source. A large part of that is due to the technology developments from fracking, the shale gas boom. We've determined that gas is probably the most balanced source of fossil fuels in terms of stability, security, and environmental sustainability. Go on.
And what were those, you mentioned renewables.
Mm-hmm.
What were those?
Well, I mean, renewables is a broad term. Basically, it's something that can be either grown again or doesn't go away, doesn't use a fuel. So that ranges from everything from biofuels, ethanol, to your solar, wind, hydropower. Hydropower, in fact, is the largest source of renewable energy in the United States, to more speculative things like tidal power and wave power and any number of things like that.
And what was your conclusion regarding those renewables?
Well, there's tremendous potential for growth in renewable power, and things like it's a very different market for solar than for wind than for hydro. They have different positives and different negatives. The positives with something like wind is that we know the technology works and it can be cost effective in the right places, but you have the problem of intermittency. And the same with solar. Different times that it's intermittent, but you do have these problems. hydro doesn't have those problems, but at the same time we've run out of places really to build good dams. So, biofuels has problems with land use. Everything has some sorts of problems. We think that you could get up to about 20 to 25% of total energy use from renewables. We're at about 8 to 9% right now. You could get up to about 20 to 25% pretty easily, but once you get beyond that, you're going to have some real problems with the grid and various other things that will have to be solved.
And finally, nuclear.
Yeah, so nuclear is, of course, an interesting one due to the 1-year anniversary that we just saw of the earthquake in Fukushima and the resulting nuclear meltdown there. It is an issue of long-term safety here, but we have to remember that the nuclear power plants we have right now are not necessarily the only nuclear power plants that we could have. There are two types of nuclear reactions. The first is our fission, the things that we use now, using uranium to run a nuclear power plant. But you could also use fusion, and fusion is using fusing together two atoms of hydrogen, deuterium and tritium, that release a neutron and generates tremendous amount of energy. Now it's at this point still speculative, really. We know it happens, we know it works, we just have to get to the point where the energy we use to confine it and produce it is less than the energy that comes out of it. And we haven't gotten there yet, but scientists around the country and around the world are working hard on this.
I mean, you've set out a very interesting report regarding these energy choices. What's the next step for the American people?
Well, for the American people is really to make these choices. We could have these same fights, and we're seeing the same fights right now on gas prices. We're seeing the stale fight that we've seen for the last 10 years. Whenever gas prices goes up, should we drill? Well, maybe, but that's really not the question. The question is, what do we need to do in the long term so this isn't a long-term problem? What do we need to do in the next 30 years, really, while we develop, while our current batch of power plants have to be shut down? What are we going to replace them with? These are the big strategic questions, and we think that you should look at them in terms of energy security, environmental sustainability, and economic stability.
Andrew Holland, thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul.